Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. Yesterday we took a look at the best decks for the month of October for Standard, and today we're going to take a look, as promised, at the best decks for Wild. Again, we'll be ranking them for Tier 1s, 2, and 3, and giving 3 decks per tier. The nerfs that happened recently to Tolor, Pilgrim, and Guardian Animals have had a bit of an impact in Wild, not nearly as much as in Standard. So you probably won't see any Druid lists. You definitely won't see Turtle Mage lists because there are none, but yeah, the only lists that really got hurt by it were like Jade Druid and Togwoggle Druid, and we'll have to take some time to see if they get further refined and get back into it. But I'm going to list 9 decks that you can reasonably expect to play and get a good ranking, whether it be Legend or climb to that Diamond rank that you've always been going for. So let's get going. Let's take a look at the 9 best decks in Wild for the month of October 2020. Starting at Tier 1, well, you shouldn't be too surprised, but yeah, the best deck in Wild still is Reno Priest. It is still the absolute juggernaut there is in Wild. You have Raza, Anduin, Kazakis, Reno, Zephyrus, Lorekeeper, Polkelt. The whole gang is there to just do insane amount of damage, heal up to full, just do everything. You have Mindrender Lucia to disrupt combos. You can run Dirty Rat to do the same as well. Incredibly powerful, just does very well. Its main counters being like Quest Mage, decks like that that are just better at doing their combo a hell of a lot faster, and it's hard to disrupt them. Even Mindrender Lucia doesn't really do the trick. So other than that, if you're looking to win some games, Reno Priest can do a good job. Just dodge Quest Mage, dodge decks like Bomb Warrior, or decks that disrupt your Highlander strategy, and you're going to have a relatively good time. Next on the list, and as mentioned as a counter to one of the best decks in Wild, is yet again Quest Mage. The meta definitely has not shifted much in terms of like the top powerhouses. Quest Mage does incredibly well against decks like Reno Priest, any deck that is remotely slow, remotely mid-range, anything like that, and it's built around Sorcerer's Apprentice, Cyclone. You cheat out your mana giants, you take extra turns, you have Flamewaker to stabilize against aggro, or just burn out decks like Odd Warrior with incredible amounts of damage. Evocation generates a million random spells, and of course you have your quest-enabled cards like Questing Explorer, Licensed Adventurer. The deck just does incredibly well. It just struggles against a lot of the aggro out there, which of course there's a good amount, so be aware of that. If you're running into a big pocket meta of aggro, Quest Mage might not be the best. Other than that, you're going to have a really good time just beating up on literally anything that doesn't want to go face. And the last Tier 1 deck is a new one. This is a new one to the list, but it just seems to be performing very well. And China, the China meta reports are really high up on it. And I've been seeing a lot. I've been struggling against it with multiple decks, and that's Odd Paladin. Odd Paladin, an old, tested, and true archetype, has just done really well. Your Blessing of Authority has really helped put it over the top. The spell has 5 mana, give a minion +8/+8. Plus you have your Tour Guide, the 1 mana guy that lets you cheat out a hero power. And the rest is basically core. You know, the side quests, you have Quartermaster, Muster for Battle, all that good stuff that allows you to click that button. You can lock people out with Loatheb. You could take in Leroy for some extra burst. It just does a very good job of punishing decks like Quest Mage. It can it can do well against Reno Priest if they don't find their AoEs, which are not as many as you would think. And the deck is done just incredibly well at a lot of ranks, and have seen people hit as much as like top 1 legend with it. So if you're looking for an old Baku deck that can do some really good work, Odd Paladin is definitely a good choice, and you definitely can't go wrong when you click the button. Next, with Tier 2 decks, we're starting off with Kingsbane Rogue. Still very powerful deck. It does have a nerfed card from somewhat recently, Secret Passage. 1 mana, draw 4 cards, but overall the deck is very explosive, still very powerful, can do a lot of good stuff. You're buffing your Kingsbane with like Deadly Poison, with Tinkmaster's Oil or Sharp Oil, whatever it's called, and you have your Pirate Package, Raiding Party, all that good stuff. I don't see too many lists running Beneath the Grounds anymore. It's built mostly purely on tempo, just trying to high roll decks like Reno Priest with early aggression, and of course, you know, you can control the board in the aggro matchup with Ship's Cannon and cheating out like a bit Dread Corsairs. A lot of good stuff. Very powerful deck, very aggressive, very quick. You can get very fast games, and I helped somebody get Legend pretty quickly the other season with it, and even with like I think like 70% win rate, I just shot up there like in like 2 or 3 hours, just slamming the nerfed version of this deck with a Secret Passage of Force. So still a very powerful deck, still very good. and you can certainly expect a lot of success playing Kingsbane Rogue. Another very aggressive, consistent deck is Discard Warlock. This deck is basically taking over where Dark Glare left off in being that very powerful, aggressive Warlock deck. Not quite oppressive at that level. I'm not putting it as a tier 1, although you could definitely make a case for this deck being tier 1. It's very powerful, and it's built around all the discard synergies, making a discard effectively not a negative. Of course, it's the main reason it's so good is Hand of Gul'dan, 6 mana, draw 3, or if you discard the card, you draw it, and yeah, you discard it with the Expired Merchant or your Rush Minion, or just, you know, just get lucky with a Soulfire or a Succubus or whatever it may be. It's just incredibly powerful. You never run out of cards. You never run out of steam. You have Tiny Knight of Evil, which gets infinitely buffed from all your discards. You have Reach with Soulfire and Doom Guards. Fist of Jiraxis if you're running it. You have a Prime in there for like a value bomb where you just play it and then all of a sudden you get another batch of Doom Guards potentially. Very powerful deck and can quite often be fatiguing by like turns 8 and 9. It draws that much. Very powerful, very good, and again, a very aggressive type of deck. Speaking of aggressive, tier 2, very aggro-based. This whole meta is very aggro-based. It's either you're trying to outrace Priest and Mage effectively in this meta. These are all, for the most part, very aggressive decks. We have Odd Rogue, yet another rogue deck. Just does incredibly well with its consistent Baku-enabled hero power. You have Secret Passage, Cutting Class. All your weapon buffs. Hinge Clan Thug can solo on its own. You could run Jandis, Leroy, Lotheb, Vilespine, Slayer is incredibly powerful, hard removal. And the deck only really struggles against things that, you know, flood the board wide. So, like, it doesn't do very well against Odd Paladin, which is picking up in popularity. Druid got hit quite a bit with the Guardian Animals. You'll be seeing a lot less Druid, which counters Odd Rogue. So, you'll be happy about that, which might end up boosting Odd Rogue a little bit more down the road. But, yeah, Odd Rogue, just a very consistent, solid, aggressive deck that does a good job against a lot of the key decks in the meta. Can't really underrate how well that consistent hero power and that damage you can get in can really help out. And even have like value now with like Wand Thief, just scamming with like a random Fireball or random Pyroblast. Like, it has just done a lot of wonders. Odd Rogue doesn't really run out of cards so much anymore with cards like Wand Thief and Cutting Class that you're not even running Evil Miscreant these days. You just don't even need the lackey value. So very powerful deck, very good in the meta, and you definitely can't go wrong with some Odd Rogue. So lastly, we'll take a look at tier 3 decks. I have one listed at tier 3 that is really picking up popularity. I'm seeing it a lot, to the point where maybe it will be a tier 1 deck next month. Not tier 2, but tier 1. I'm seeing it so much. And if you're seeing it that much, it's usually because people are having a lot of success with it. But I'm not quite ready to sing its praises yet. And that is Aggro Druid. Aggro, like token Druid with the Embiggen stuff. Yeah, its curve stops at 2, effectively. Like, you're running 1 and 2 drops pretty much exclusively. And then you have like Savage Roar to finish your opponent off. You just vomit little stuff, you play Embiggen, buffs up your minions, and then the whole centerpiece around it that lets you get away with just running such a low curve is your double Voracious Reader. You're able to, you know, just spam the board, play Voracious Reader, it draws 3, and typically because you've buffed your minions, it's hard for people to remove all the stuff, and Voracious Reader might get you more draws, or you just finish your opponent off with Savage Roar, because you have patches, you have all that stuff to cheat out, especially the big, and it's so powerful. But, you know, you lose to like 1 or 2 AoEs, like it's over. So you queue into like a Cubelock, you queue into like a Highlander Priest that has that AoE, you get stomped. So the deck has that problem where it can get, you know, beat out by 1 or 2 AoEs. But overall, it's a very, very fast, very explosive deck that has done a lot of good for a lot of people. And I'm seeing a ton on ladder at all ranks. So definitely one of the stronger tier 3 decks I've ever listed. I probably would put it higher, but we're going to leave Aggro Token Druid, whatever you want to call it, as a tier 3 deck. But definitely a good one to pick up if you want a lot of fast, aggressive games where you can have like turn 3 or 4 lethals. And it's not that out of the ordinary. Next, we have one of the counters to this is, for the most part, is Cubelock. You can defile decks like this. You can Plague of Flames, but yeah, you have Cubelock. It's a staple. It just struggles, you know? Like, it has its bad matchups. Like, it can do well against Odd Paladin. It can do well against decks like that, but Quest Mage, Reno Priest definitely have their way with this deck to an extent, and it can struggle with your early aggression. You don't get that Dark Skies, that good Defile, or that Void Caller and the Void Lord. It's a struggle, and you can really have that issue with that early game. But when you have that mid game of Void Caller and the Void Lord, you have Skull and Minari, you have all these gigantic demon taunts that you can resurrect nonstop with Gul'dan or N'Zoth. You can Expired Merchant, get more copies of that. It can be insane the amount of value you can extract, the amount of healing you can get, but it just typically comes a little bit too late against a lot of these aggressive decks. And again, like Reno Priest and Quest Mage, they just don't care. They go through it, whether it be through like Giants taking extra turns or just, Anduin pinging. It can be a real struggle. So Cubelock, still a good deck, can still do a lot of good, but it can really struggle against the things I mentioned. So be aware, if you're taking out your old Cubelock, you can have a bit of a problem. And lastly, we'll take a look at Galakrond Bomb Warrior. This deck can do a lot of good stuff. You shuffle in bombs into your opponent's deck, you have patches, you have some charge minions, and, you can shut off Reno Priest. It's a really good deck against Reno Priest because you just make sure they have 2 bombs in their deck. They can't play Raza, they can't play Reno, they can't play Zephyrus. You shut off so many good things, and you're going face constantly, whether it be through Wrench Caliber, through your Invokes, Gallicron itself, Kronks. Very powerful deck, and it can compete with the aggressive decks. You do have, Sign of Ruin, you have some early game. But yeah, it can definitely struggle in more of those tempo-based matchups where, you don't have exactly the best removal. Sign of Ruin comes on pretty late, and the game can get pretty out of control. So be aware of that. But if you want to target like Reno Priest in particular, Galakrond Bomb Warrior is an absolute great way to go. And it can do well against other decks for sure. I would imagine against Quest Mage, where you're just cycling in bombs, getting a lot of damage in. You can outrace them for sure and do a lot of good stuff. And even against like Discard Warlock, where they're constantly drawing and damaging themselves, well, putting bombs near the deck can be a pretty good thing. So hopefully that helps. That's 9 wild decks to give a go for the month of October. Again, as always, let me know in the comments below what decks are working for you. What have I overrated, underrated, all that. It's always a good debate. I'm never 100% accurate, just giving my best prediction, or not prediction, my best assessment of what I think is strong out there. Give you guys the best chance to either hit legend, get high legend ranks, or just get to that rank you're looking for. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Stay salty, my friend.